She's a one.
So thanks for having us today. We're thrilled to be here at B2B Rocks with this rocking panel talking about relationship between startups and investors. With this rocking panel, as I said, we have Pauline, partner at Elaya, a French venture capital firm focused on digital and deep tech startups. And Mathieu, who is a co-founder at Axeleo Capital, both accelerator and investment on B2B software startups, enterprise. And Norbert, who is co-founder as well of Edenred Capital, the investment arm of the Edenred Group. So thank you for being here. We all know here that raising fund is a big challenge for entrepreneurs, and relationship between startups and funders can be fraught with difficulty, but we all know how also on this stage that it can work really well. And it can be like transformative and life-changing for a startup. So to talk about this relationship between startups and founders, let's begin with the beginning. And maybe Pauline, let's talk about a little bit about the roadshow phase, like how you choose an investors and how you check on the interest and the need of the investors when you're looking for someone investing in your startups. What would be your call on that?
I think one of the tips we could give for entrepreneurs in the room is try first to have a good definition of the need you have in this fundraising. Of course, you are looking for money, but you don't look for money only. You look for smart money. This is one of the key buzzwords at the moment. So what is the smart definition of the money you want to have? Do you want to have some business angel that would be at your side, like tipping you, supporting you, brainstorming with you? Do you want people with some support in structuring the company, hiring? Do you want people with a engineering background because you have a techie product and you want to have some support on this? Do you want to scale up internationally and then you need some people that have some good connections for the next round? So sometimes like companies come to us without a real definition of what they need and what they want, and they just go and see VCs because you need to see like 15 or 20 VC to make sure you have your round down at the end of the roadshow. So I would say like define the needs and the type of people you want to work with in terms of personality and also of skill set.
One pick you on that concept of skill set and the needs of the investor. Also what they need when you invest in a company. You have LPs and you need to make money. Maybe it's some kind different with a corporate venture. Norbert, how you look that concept of alignment of interests between startups and investor as a corporate venture?
So as corporate venture, and I would say that they might all be different. So I will speak more about Edenred Capital. And Edenred Capital, in fact, we are a corporate venture where 5% of the all investment made are made by the two other partners. So we are very much aligned. So it's a corporate venture with alignment with the traditional venture capital. So it means that when we look at investing the money, we are looking at what the company, Edenred, can bring. And Edenred usually is looking to learn from any investment, learn from the founders, learn from the new services which are developed. But it has to be a win-win. So it means developing synergies, generating synergies, and that's what us, let's say, you were mentioning the co-founders, we are making sure that the delivery of the synergies is there and that the group, the corporate, ensures, whether at the level of business unit, whether just in terms of expertise, that enough efforts are put to deliver these synergies to the companies we invest in. And I would say that it also differs whether it's a Series A or Series B or pre-Series A. It also differs a lot there.
And Mathieu, you are both an accelerator and a venture capital. So obviously the entrepreneurs that are contacting you are not only doing it just for the money. But how this is a different point of view as an accelerator platform, working with startups, and how they need to look at you when they are contacting you.
Yes, at Accelero we set up a unique combination between a business acceleration program dedicated to startups concerning their issues in sales and marketing with a VC fund. And it's rather a question of fit because we can draw a parallel between a love relationship and an investor relationship, except it's approximately the same configuration, except that for a love relationship you're targeting a long life together, and for an investor relationship you're targeting a successful divorce. And you need to find the best fitting investor. So you need, for a love relationship, you need to spend time with your investor or your accelerator with investment capacities like us. And I suggest that you spend some time informally with investor, even before kicking off your fundraising process, to know them, to spend some time before something happens, because for the long haul, you're going to have not only the fund you want to work with, but also the people. So you have to screen the team, principals, partners. They may have already invested in your industry, so they could have a network. They could help you at the board of advisor. And on the other side, if you have no fit, it could be dangerous to have these guys or girls at your board of director. And that's why it's also important that as a CEO, you should pursue your own due diligence process by calling portfolio companies, by calling people that have already these kind of guys at their board of director. Could be very important for you.
This is great, and this is the fit during the roadshow would be for entrepreneurs to contact other entrepreneurs of the portfolio of the investor, and after that you have another paper, a document that shows what would be the relationship between both investors and entrepreneurs called the term sheet. And what about this document, in your opinion, Pauline? How is a good showing of the mindset of the deal? What is put in this document, in your view?
You have different types of term sheet. You have some of them that are like half a page long. At Elia, I'm sorry, it's a bit more than that. It's a 12-page long. Because what you say in the term sheet is setting up the relationship you will have afterwards. And unfortunately, we try to anticipate all the bad or complicated cases. So there is a lot of clauses that are very unpleasant to talk about and to negotiate, because the term sheet is the moment, it's a schizophrenic moment, because this is the moment when a VC say, yes, I want to be part of your venture because I really believe in what you're doing. And this is also the moment when you are talking about removing CEOs, how you exit companies, about all of those bad stuff. So the term sheet is a moment when you will see the mindset of the VC, not only because of the terms, because of the valuation, because of the types of preferences the VC is asking. So the more detailed the term sheet is, I think, the better, because you know where you are going to and who you are going to work with. And on top of that, we recommend that the term sheet is discussed physically. I mean, this is setting up like your next 5 to 10 years with someone, so it deserves a physical moment. So as much as we can, we try to go through the document, explain things, because when you are an entrepreneur, even if there is a lot of stuff in the internet, on Medium and blah, 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 it's not really evident to everybody what's in there. There are a lot of technical stuff, so it needs explanations and explanation, and also anticipation of fear, because most of those clauses never apply in reality.
Yeah, I agree with that. And regarding this do's and don'ts that doesn't have to be in a term sheet, what's your opinion, Norbert? You talked to me about like the term sheet has evolved in France. It's now more and more known, the typical terms that are in this kind of a document?
Yes, and I would say also that the term sheet, if it's too short, in the end, there's always the shareholders' agreement, the final documentation, which will be long. So it's better to be upfront and to know in the term sheet what is going to be negotiated after, because once you have the term sheet, you don't want to spend many months discussing legal documentation. And it's a fact that our view is that the term sheets now are quite standard, and it's a fact that the benefit of France, because we also invest outside of France, is that they are quite friendly with the founders. So I noticed that in the last, in this year, most of the terms, France is perhaps the friendliest place to be a founder. However, there is quite a let's say, uniformity today, and it would be strange when you receive some term sheet that there is a wide difference in terms of liquidation preference. If there are some, you wonder why. And so I would say that today, more or less, it's not just on the term sheet that the difference makes. It's go back to the previous point, it's really on the people and the governance.
You want to add something on the term sheet?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally agree with you. I think that today we don't see esoteric clauses. It's shareholders are quite market practice. In the past, we saw weird demands asked, for example, by business angels when they wanted to create liquidity event at the next round. It was very complicated to execute these kind of clauses. Or some, but corporate venture that was asking for veto rights. But it's no longer the case today, as you have a lot of competition around the deals, for the sexiest deals. If you try to ask for different clauses or weird demands, it's a good way for you to be out of the deal, or a good way to create difficulties for the next round. So, and this is also thanks to initiatives like the Gallion project, or a lot of stuff that you could find on the internet that explain to CEOs what kind of clauses they have to cope with and what kind of clauses they may negotiate that way. So, yes, for me, shareholders' agreement is no longer rocket science.
Sure, and for the record, the Gallion project is releasing a new version of the term sheet they have been doing, and it's really a good document to follow, so I think it will be next week. Now, okay, like we done the investment, so we are in the investment phase. The roadshow has passed, and you are working with the entrepreneurs. And as an entrepreneur, I would say, like every investment fund, even you, and on communication and internet and on your website, you all say that you're entrepreneur friendly. So this is something really common we can see, and what is difficult is for entrepreneurs to say, okay, you're entrepreneur friendly, but your interest is also to make money. So you have kind of a fiduciary duty or a financial duty, make money with the investment. And when you have maybe some kind of a conflict with the entrepreneurs, it can rise that your financial duty is greater than this entrepreneur-friendly mindset you say you have. What it is, Pauline, maybe as a venture capital, you have your LPs, and sometimes you can have some difficulties, like an entrepreneur that misses his budget, or an entrepreneur that wants to leave.
Their budget.
Yeah, basically, but let's say for 4 years in a row. No, let's say like some kind of a conflict can rise, and you have your investment that you need to make money with, and you see that there's this conflict. How do you manage this kind of being close to the entrepreneur and entrepreneur friendly, and to have this fiduciary duty as a VC fund?
There is a lot in the question. First thing is that interests deeply are aligned, because as a good VC, if you are a good VC, you need to think in the interest of the company. And this is where your stake will be maximized. I mean, in the end, I was animating a lunch and learn this lunch with the startups at Microsoft, and someone asked me, like, but can you force a company to exit because this is your timing as a fund? And I said, of course not. Because how do I sell a company without the funders and the team? So you can have some stress or some kind of conflicts with people, but in the end, I mean, this is the interest of the company to grow, because it maximizes your stake. What sometimes I think there is a misunderstanding is how a fund is is working. We have some money mandated from our LPs. They are institutional guys, corporates, personal people that give us who give us money to invest, and those are primarily our clients. The startups are also kind of client. I don't like the word, but they are more partners, and the way we work is partnership. And the way we give money back is to our clients. We don't need to give money back to the founders. So the way we take decisions is to maximize the ROI of the investment. And when we maximize the ROI of the investment is also because the startup has been successful. So there is a lot of myth about investors trying to maximize their own interest. But when shareholder agreements and stuff like that are properly built, I think there is not much, and then having conflicts or board meetings about strategic topics. I mean, it's day-to-day life, and then this is where you set up governance, majority votes, but everything is manageable there.
And as a corporate, Norbert, you don't have this kind of financial institution or clients that exist for you. You have to maximize the relationship between the startups, and Edenred has a group. How do you manage like conflict or some kind of a conflict that can arise by working with a startup?
I mean, the conflict, I really believe very much in the shareholders agreement, so I think it's really the base. Then Edenred, when they work with a startup, hopefully there is like a revenue sharing agreement whereby there's good business being done and the revenues are shared. Our CEO, let's say, is, and I think it's really corporate by corporate, but is really involved in every investment committee every month. So we follow very clearly, very closely. And if there are conflicts, I would say it might be a conflict between a business unit, which is selling or the product or the service, but then it's a commercial agreement. It's not Edenred Capital. We really split the two. There's Edenred Capital, and as I said initially, Philippe Dufour and myself, we are both investors, cash in the company, so we really separate the two. And we ensure that there's a commercial agreement that the business unit work together well, whether it's in Germany, in Italy, and we have got internally somebody who really pushes for that, but that's all. So that's why we really try to avoid, to split the two roles, so to have no conflict. And so far, we haven't had any conflict.
And yes, because building a startup is something like completely draining for entrepreneurs, like even physically or mentally. And sometimes entrepreneurs say, like, you are an investors and you can put yourself at my place, at my situation. You cannot emphasize. You have to be a former entrepreneur to be a good investor or not. What's your point on that, like Mathieu? Because you have this acceleration platform, and obviously some of the funding partners at Accéléreo have been entrepreneurs in the past. Is it something you have to do to be a good venture capital investors?
It's quite different. It's quite different between Accéléreo, which is a business acceleration program, and Accéléreo Capital, which is a management company. And I don't think it's mandatory to have been an entrepreneur to be a VC. Of course not. Still, you can find similar skills, tech-driven, market trends, HR, organization, for example. But for former entrepreneur, if you want to be in the VC game, you need to adapt your behavior because you're no longer doer, no more hands-on as you used to be. So sometimes it's difficult to step back and to act as a minority shareholder. So that's why it could be complicated to have only a full team with entrepreneur. And besides, I see today a lot of people coming in the VC game that are former C-level of successful startup. People coming from Spotify or Hotel Tonight, and they were former CEO or CPO, for example. And they were not entrepreneur. They haven't the title. They didn't co-found these successful startups, but they know very well the market. They have experienced operational issues, and they could be very good entrepreneur. So I think today it's more a question of position towards the CEO, experience, expertise, than just a title.
And that's something great. We were going to talk about that, like with the board, and how the board can be something really helpful for entrepreneurs. But we were previously talking about the time you will spend with the entrepreneurs and in the board or not. But as a VC fund, you have, as we say before, a financial duty, and you have 2 or 4 enterprise and companies in the portfolio that will generate outsized revenue. Let's say this is the winner of the portfolio. Are you going to spend more time with them and let the other with just 1 board per year? No. But how do you see this? Pauline, you have several companies in your portfolio, and how do you manage the time you spend with all of them?
This is something quite tricky. It depends a lot on the maturity of the company, because it's not only about being successful or not. Sometimes you are very successful, but also very mature, and it's post-series CRD, and there is a lot of people around the table, and with mature entrepreneurs, second time, third time, and they are not asking much, and everything is perfectly working well without you, so you are just like more than happy. Sometimes it's messy, there's a lot to support, to coach, and it's bad news, and you need to be there. So sometimes it's a time allocation that's not super ROI driven in the short run, but your role is also to be there in bad times, not just to show shiny track record and that's it. And sometimes it varies according also to the amount of support and help a founder wants from you. So there are very different people. Some are very asking, sometimes too much, for anything like should I hire this junior blah 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 at 30K, like decide yourself. So it really varies. For sure, we need to make the most of our investment and allocation of money to the best ones. It looks like obvious, but in the real world, this is what is very difficult for us to do, because we have our own portfolios. All companies are like babies we love, and we don't want to let anybody on the side. So it's about money allocation more than time allocation.
All right, and one last question with the board, and after we will have some time for 1 or 2 questions of the audience. Norbert, what would be your best practice for the board member and the board? It's the point of relationship with the startups and founders after raising money, where everybody has to be transparent about their needs and how they can grow with the project and the people that are working with. So what's your best practice regarding board meetings?
I think what is important, and that's why at the beginning we are rarely us lead. We like to be co-lead. We believe that you don't want to have too many shareholders at the in one round, but to have at least 2, 3. And the board must be like in life. You must have many expertise. So around the table, when you make decisions, you want to have either product or service expertise, you want some financial expertise, you want some operational expertise on the go-to-market, and so that you really need to have. And when you look at your investors and when you look at who you want at the board, and then it goes back to the previous point we mentioned on an entrepreneur, from entrepreneur or not, you need to have as many skills. And then it's really, there's always the consensus, to make sure that people speak enough at the board or before, because at the board, usually people speak before the board. They reach conclusion a little before, and the board, they continue the discussion, but you don't make a decision just in one board of 2-3 hours. So it's really exchanging before and making sure that the views and the voice of everyone is included in the decision-making process. So they say is like common sense, but really at the board, when you have got strong personalities, you have to make sure that everybody is able to add something. And if you think that at your board some people don't add anything, then it's better to think about replacing them.
Does anybody have some question here in the
I
room?
have a no bullshit answer to this one.
Okay. Yeah, Pauline.
No, but because we said no bullshit, but it's kind of like very pleasant. Okay, so one of my tips would be sometimes, when you say, okay, I'm going to work with that VC. You want like the top head, like the guy like representing. And sometimes when you have this, because when you have a lot of term sheets, you can choose with whoever you want at the board. And sometimes it ends in competition of ego. So it's really nice to have like the very representative people, but pay attention also to have people that, you know, you see the board as an exercise helping you guys and not a demonstration. You like this one?
This is a good one. Does anybody have some question? Yeah.
Thank you. Like in most relationships, all the information and real information that we have is like everything's going, is the good information of the relationship. So everything's go well at the end, the startup get an exit and everything goes well. So what kind of experience can you share like with something that doesn't goes well or something, and how did you figure it out, like maybe to turn it out in a good experience for you as a VC?
Perhaps, let's say, one example in our portfolio. At one stage, the company was developing quite well, but at one stage they make like a pivot. They changed the strategy, and suddenly revenues were going down or plateauing. And so what was decided, and it was as a board, it took some time. It was not done in 1 month, but in 6 months, it was decided that the CEO, founder, had to leave. And so, but it was done in the right intelligence, and there was some issue with sales. So he had managed to bring in somebody who was good in sales, and in an amicable way, the CEO founder left. The newcomer rose and became CEO, and the company is now doing much better. So it can happen, and it happens.
Yes, usually when you have to take hard decision, it's related to human resources issues. And we know that sometimes it's very difficult to make somebody understand that he doesn't have the level of professionalism required, or that his actions are damaging the company, and he can't see that. So you need to, you have 2 plans. Plan A would be to try to redefine his position in his organization. And plan B, it's a 2-step process. You know, plan B would be to show him the way out. But this is the last resort, and it's always complicated, really, especially for a co-founder. But you need to react quickly. You need to be absolute trustworthy and transparent with your board, because your board is also here to help you, because we've already we learned about companies we invested in, and we see these kind of scenarios, unfortunately, sometimes. So the board is also here to help you, to try to solve problems with you. We're not here just to drink champagne when a strategic deal is signed. So trust, transparency, and it will be fine.
Pauline, we'll begin with you, so let's close with you. You have ever took a hard decision as
I
an
agree,
investor?
and I had nothing to add. It's always on HR, removing someone, or you know, we had. I have 2 examples. One is on a startup that was quite early stage. It was would say 2 or 3 quarters after we invested, and the company. It took some time to take off, and one day there is the CEO coming to us saying, the CEO, we should remove him. 2 days after, likewise, the other way. What do? You have a startup that is totally exploding from the inside. Remote offices, one was in Paris, the other one was in another city in France. So what do you do as a VC? You are not here like to decide. So you need to softly launch a kind of audit, and so some VCs came to the offices, talked to the people, try to figure out what was going on there. And it's always difficult, and in the end you need to choose. And in the end it was the independent board member who said, this is the guy we should remove. And he was the guy that told the future removed guy, that he should go out. And then the VC came back in the discussion for shareholding matters, but it's always about HR.
Thank you. We'll keep the other question for the cocktail. Maybe you have a cocktail at B2B Works, sure. We close. So thank you, everybody, and
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
She's a one.